Actually, the ramp up to this trip was difficult. I got to the departure date feeling like I was running on fumes. I was asking the Lord, you'll have to make us able to do this because I don't feel like I'm in a position to give out.
The 2 weeks prior to our leaving, there was so much happening in our church family, and there was a kind of weariness that just felt like, I don't know how this is going to happen. It feels like too much. It was interesting, Izzy's sermon, of course, was about empathy, and felt like God was preparing us to go in the manner that we would meet people, which were empty and weary. I think especially knowing that we were going to meet with some of the pastors who have been carrying not only their own burdens, but the burdens of others. I just felt like the Lord said, I'm giving you a kind of understanding in a really small way of what maybe some of these pastors have been feeling like.
The trip had been planned for months in advance. It was a small 5-person team, each with their own skill set, including people who were familiar with trauma healing work. The purpose was to discover how we could help World Relief Congo build a trauma healing program. In the last 10 years of partnering with World Relief Congo, we've seen some amazing advances by God's Spirit with grassroots peace building in the areas where they're working. But I don't think we're done yet, because there's another area that has not been tapped, which needs to, and that has to do with the sort of trauma people experience after decades of war and sexual gender-based violence against them.
We can't underestimate this long-term relationship, and I say relationship because I think we're certainly partners with World Relief Congo and the people there, but they see us far more as family. And I can't tell you how often, when meeting with people, when they understood where we were coming from, there was just an immediate connection of love. The last day we were there, we were meeting with some women, 4 of whom we had met with in 2014. And we say, we're just bring greetings from the fellowship family. And then specifically, I remembered who had the prayer cards for each of these women. And so I said, I bring greetings from Kay Desjardins to Zabeda, and bring greetings from Jess Coleman from Mama Charlene. I bring greetings to Stephanie from Stephanie Johns. And a few minutes later, they opened their bags, which many of them have few possessions, and they open their bags and they pull out the prayer cards from 2 years ago. And so now they're holding the picture of Kay and of Jess and Gerald and of Stephanie, and I'm just aware of how much it matters and how much they're really depending on our prayers. And so to return matters, to continue to be saying to them, we're with you. It just matters.
We heard really difficult stories of heartbreak and trauma resulting from the violence people had experienced. I felt a kind of privilege of being able to enter in and share their heartache. In that culture, you're not always transparent. And in any culture, when you've had shameful things that have occurred to you, or that you've been broken down in a certain way, we're all reticent to share that with others. But the fact that they were willing to share, especially the men in that culture, just allowing myself to receive that and hold it with them, I felt several times, and I said to the group, like, man, I think we should take off our shoes. Like, this is just sacred, what's happening right now. It's a holy moment. And that I could participate in that by just receiving these stories.
That was especially true of when we met with a group of pastors. One in particular talked about having seen people killed, and the bodies were stacked up like firewood, with the men and women on the bottom and the children on the top. And the trigger for him is anytime he sees a fire, that's what he sees. He sees this. And I can't imagine being one who's trying to offer comfort and hope to people, and for himself bearing the weight of that. And it was story after story of these pastors, and part of, I believe, what our mission was to be able to receive some of those stories from these men. And there's something powerful about telling and someone hearing you And I think we were able to do that.
I think coming out of this trip, watching people persist in their daily experience there, especially in the rural areas of Congo, and connecting to our persistence to go, even though we felt powerless. Even still, the Lord provides when we persist.
One of the things that's always struck me about the Congolese people that we've met is really that deep sense of joy. We would hear the horrific stories of many, and then there would be an ease of laughter that really came from their gut. It wasn't fake. It wasn't, I have to muster this up. And at least our time with the women, we ended every time singing together and laughing, and I think the joy of the Lord is their strength. And so they're able to really hold both the sorrow and the joy in such a beautiful way. I want to be like that. There's relative peace there now, but we heard so many stories of the needs that need to be met still. People that are continuing to experience the ongoing trauma, triggers of everyday life that will take these folks back in their memory to the stories.
As we talk a lot about healing here in our context, it begs the question, what does healing of heart wounds and trauma that people have experienced, what does that look like in their context?